It's the Infectious Groove Podcast, part of the Odd Pods Media Network. Recorded from Detroit, Michigan, and Jacksonville, Florida. The Infectious Groove Podcast is your source for jammy jams, album reviews, and the best in-depth music discussion. Thanks for joining us. Now here are your hosts.
Hello. Welcome to a technical difficulty-laden episode of the Infectious Groove Podcast. Before anybody else is even hearing this intro, Kyle and I are doing our damnedest to get through recording this for you. And when I say Kyle and I mean that we may not have Michelle with us this week. We're not entirely sure at this point. It's going to be dictated by what time Michelle and Kyle's child decides to go to bed. Kyle, if you had to put money on it, where would you say we're going to land with that?
I don't know. It's looking a little rough. She's usually asleep, 2 hours ago by now.
Right. She's just not having it this evening is all.
Yeah, I think she's getting some new chompers, so she's having a little bit of a rough time.
Yeah, that'll do it. Well, normally I would pass it over to Michelle and say, hey, what did we talk about last week? But I'm betting you remember, Kyle. Do you remember what we talked about last week?
What did we talk about? Now that you put me on the spot.
Oh, no.
I don't. I'm having a brain fart. I don't remember.
That's all right. Now, Michelle's never going to let you live this down, but
I even wrote the description and did all that shit. Now I can't even remember what the hell it was now.
Yeah, no kidding. It was the album review for Amigo the Devil.
Oh, yeah, damn it. Yes. Okay, yeah.
So you better hope that Michelle doesn't listen to this episode, but that's between you and the Lord. So having said that, last week we had an album review brought to us by a listener of the show, which was awesome for all of us that we got to hear an artist that was new to us, an album that was new to us, and we loved it a great deal. But as always, we start the show off with feedback from our listeners on that episode and any other episodes that they want to share with us, and so we'll get right into that right now.
Feedback, John. Don't worry about that. Right. There's rock and roll be without feedback.
First up, and we actually have a couple of pieces of feedback from this gentleman. It's Mohammed Reza from Iran chimes in and says, I listened to both versions of Hurt, and I got to say I like the Johnny Cash version of the song much more, even though it was a cover. I just didn't connect with the Nine Inch Nails version. So for this type of song, I have two suggestions. Rock and Roll Dreams by Jim Steinman. Meatloaf did a cover of that, and another one is Making Love Out of Nothing at All by Air Supply and the cover by Bonnie Tyler. I love both songs of his, and the covers are respectively very good. Hope you read my message from Mohammed Reza in Iran. And not only do we have that, but we have another message coming from him later, which will be cool. Regarding the album Everything is Fine by Amigo the Devil, Sean and Chris said, Cocaine and Abel stopped me right in my tracks because I didn't know what to expect. The album was haunting in such a fantastic way. I can't say enough great things about this album. So that same reaction as we had. D-Tension, who gave us the album to review, chimed in and said, I'm so happy this turned out well. I was on pins and needles listening to it. I'm super stoked that Kyle liked it as much as he did. And Kyle, I know, again, not to put you on the spot, but I know we were talking about you were going to dig into more. Did you get a chance to do that this week, or is that still on your hit list?
No, it's still on my list. I have not gotten a chance to dig into much more than the album that we listened to.
But yeah, there is plenty out there to dig into. This particular piece of feedback cracked me up. Last week, one of my jammy jams was James Porter said, regarding Burning Down the House by the Talking Heads, my house burned down and I still think that's the fucking jam.
Oh my God, that is so funny, but not funny at all.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, it's funny because he can say it.
Yes.
Ryan writes in and says, great episode. What's hilarious is I've been wanting to get into Amigo the Devil for a while. As I finished listening to the podcast today, I was pulling into my driveway, and on my porch was a box containing the two Amigo the Devil albums I had ordered. Unfortunately, neither one was Everything is Fine, so I'm going to have to pick that one up. Seth chimes in and says, I'm listening to Amigo the Devil right now because of Detention and Infectious Pod, and I'm really enjoying it. I love a good murder folk album. Garrett from the Ever Trending Story podcast writes in and says, what a fun episode. It's great to hear a discussion on something new, and I hope that trend continues, which there's always a shot, well, first of all, Kyle, I think you bring a lot of at least new to me stuff to the album reviews. Like sometimes you pick classics, but you pick a lot of new to me type stuff. But every time we do an album review and we do a listener pick, there's always the chance that that's going to be, something none of the three of us have heard.
Yeah, and what was shocking to me is that I very much listened to very similar things to Amigo the Devil, and that never popped up on my radar whatsoever. I had no idea who that was when Detention mentioned it.
Yeah, me too. The Ever Trending Story podcast themselves chimed in and said, we just listened to this album yesterday, and wow, what a shock. It's a fantastic listen, and I will definitely be checking out more from Amigo the Devil. Thank you for introducing us. And Mohammad Reza from Iran takes up another piece of feedback for us and says, thank you so much for introducing me to new music to listen to. With the limitations in our country, it's really hard for me to find out about good music, and I pretty much do it randomly and by luck. Second, I wanted to tell you about an album that's always stuck with me, and I would love for you guys to listen to it. Mike Posner, A Real Good Kid. He released this after his dad died, and it's such a good and honest record. I mean, he doesn't hold back, and it tells you what his deepest feelings and fears are. Also, he is from Detroit, and he's mentioned it several times during his song, so I thought that would be something for you guys to listen to. My favorite track is How It's Supposed to Be. I swear every time I listen to it, I get tears in my eyes. Thank you for the great program. As always, I really hope to meet you someday meet you. This is Mohammad Reza from Iran. So I thought that was cool.
That is mind-blowing that somebody from Iran knows who Mike Posner is.
Mm-hmm.
Because I also love that. I actually love everything that Mike Posner has ever done. I don't think that he puts out any bad material whatsoever.
Right.
He doesn't put out very much anymore nowadays of his own stuff. He still writes and does stuff for other people. But yeah, I couldn't agree more. That is a great record. And yeah, wow. I can't believe that somebody from that far away is up on Mike Posner.
And wants to meet us someday.
Oh, yeah. I skipped that part. Yeah, you're right.
No, but I think that's awesome. Lastly, someone retweeted our episode twice last week, and then right before you and I sat down to record this trouble-laden episode of the Infectious Groove podcast, Amigo the Devil himself went ahead and tweeted our episode twice last week, and this evening said to us, thank you so much for the kind words with 4 exclamation points. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Actually, I learned something when researching for doing the description and whatnot for the episode.
Uh-huh.
When he was touring for that record, he had to keep getting more and more records pressed as the tour went on because he would run out on the road, and he just kept having to pick more and more copies up to sell the pieces.
That's awesome. Moving right along, our jammies. So there's not going to be as much drama in the Jammy Jams this week because we're not going to have to worry about if Michelle's ready or if what may or may not, or hopefully Kyle won't have any unjams for us. But for me, my Jammy Jams this week, and the first one's going to be so silly, but I promise this is real. The first one of the Jammy Jams this week for me is Twisted Sister, I Wanna Rock. And it's not even my favorite Twisted Sister song. It's like my third favorite Twisted Sister song. We're Not Gonna Take It is the one I like the most, followed by, they had a really good ballad that was a hit at the time on that same album called The Price that I like a lot. And here comes the silly part. Since I moved to Jacksonville, Winn-Dixie is a big, huge thing down here. And there is a ad that runs about 300 times a day for Winn-Dixie where they use I Wanna Rock by Twisted Sister, but instead it says I Wanna Win. As in, I want to go to Winn-Dixie, and dear, it is and it's all I want to win, dun, 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 I want to win, and it's just, so that song's been stuck in my head. There's nothing I can do about it. It's not even it's my third favorite Twisted Sister album, but it's been stuck in my head. And then the other one, I'm not even going to go on a big diatribe about. The Roger Waters tour is starting soon, so he keeps posting to his Facebook page rehearsal clips and stuff where he's just being hilarious, for real, being funny, which is not something you commonly associate with Roger Waters. But I've just been listening to a whole lot of Roger Waters this week, and not even just Pink Floyd, just a lot of his solo stuff, which I've gone on the show I like. So I'll pick an array of his solo stuff, maybe stuff I think most people wouldn't mind listening to. It's not stuff that doesn't sound exactly like Pink Floyd. And I'll put that on the playlist this week. So Twisted Sister by way of Winn-Dixie, and all things Roger Waters by way of his tour. Kyle, what have you been listening to this week?
Speaking of Roger Waters, he's been hustling real hard on the YouTube ads for his upcoming concert.
Yes, sir. Yeah. About what would you say those YouTube ads run about every 2 seconds?
Yeah, they and this week it hasn't been so bad. I feel like last week every ad was the Roger Waters ad. Yeah, I was like, holy shit, man!
It's gonna be a sweet tour, man. It's gonna be a sweet tour. It's the first time he's ever played in the round. He showed on Facebook the other day a mock-up of a computer generated mock-up of how the stage is gonna look, and it looks like screens are gonna run crossways, all the way down and all the way across the arena. It looks like it's going to be mind-blowing. You probably heard about it in all the YouTube ads. So anyways, what have you been listening to?
I do have to make a public apology first, and that is to MGK.
Oh, no. Is it good?
I have talked so much shit about this guy since he crossed over doing his pop punk shit that he's doing. I watched his movie on Hulu called Life in Pink, and goddamn, man, he couldn't break through any further than he was doing rap, so he went back. He actually started doing rock music. Like that was like how he started, which is what we were suspecting to begin with.
Right.
So he couldn't. The fans, he had a lot of fans, but the record labels just were not willing to push him any further as a rapper. So he said fuck it and went back to his rocker punk roots. And goddamn, he really got his shit together. And the way I look at it is, if Travis Barker signs off on it, then okay, you know what,
for sure.
I will. I'll take that. He signs off on it. He drums on, I think, every single song on his records. So I wanted to apologize to everyone who likes the new MGK and to MGK himself, because
So possible Kyle bump in the future instead of insulting him.
Yeah. I will not be insulting him anymore. The documentary it worked and it turned me around, and now I appreciate him for what he's doing.
Rad. Okay, so did you listen to the latest record all that much, or did you take a bunch of it in via the documentary?
Yeah, only what was played in the documentary. I haven't dug into that much. But what I have been listening to randomly in the car, I don't know, Rob Zombie, The Great American Nightmare came on, whatever Sirius station I was listening to. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my God, this is a goddamn jam. So then I went on Spotify or whatever, and I did not listen to the record that it's on, but there's a greatest hits record called Past, Present, and Future.
Yes.
And it has basically all of his, all the songs that everyone knows of his.
I think it's got White Zombie and Rob Zombie on there, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does, yep. So I've been listening to that. Of course, The Great American Nightmare, I've been listening to that over and over again. Now,
Kyle, since Michelle's not here, would you like to speak on her behalf? Has she been enjoying greatly all the Rob Zombie you've been playing?
Oh, so I had it playing on my phone earlier, and my phone was in my pocket because it was doing something else. And she comes out into the living room and says, "What is happening? What's coming out of your pocket right now?" And
she was not too happy.
She was not happy. She did not seem to enjoy it, which is unfortunate because I do enjoy me some Rob Zombie.
Yeah, I dig his old White Zombie material and pretty much a lot of what I've heard from when he went solo too. So I'm good. So public apology to MGK, various Rob Zombie tracks, and do you got anything else for us?
One more thing is, I've mentioned this several times, but there's a live record by City and Color called "Guide Me Back Home," and because he is so good live, it's a fantastic record. I don't know how old it is. It's a very good record. I can attest that he does sound like that live. I've seen him multiple times, so
right on.
It just is a good record overall, and I keep finding myself listening to it. So.
Right on. All right. Well, we are going to go to break. We got everything out of the way. It's crazy. This is about the length that the first portion of the show usually is, which is crazy because usually I feel like Michelle derails us a whole lot.
Typically.
Didn't seem like it did this time. So I am going to take us to break. When we come back, Kyle and I are going to have a discussion about is rock dead or dying, and our thoughts on that whole situation. We'll be talking about that when we come back, and we'll see if Michelle joins us. Who's to say? You're listening to the Infectious Groove podcast on the Odd Pods Media Network.
Hi, I'm Shannon.
I'm Jamie.
We're Married with Television, marriedwithtv.com. We are a couple of Hollywood normies on the outskirts of the film and TV industry, and we talk about our favorite TV shows, music, and movies, and sometimes they talk back to us.
Sometimes they do.
Our podcast is Married with Television, one word, on Stitcher, Spotify, iTunes, and SoundCloud.
Possibly Amazon soon. And we are a proud member of the Odd Pods Media Network.
Married with TV.
marriedwithtv.com.
I'm Richie, a.k.a. Midnight Agent Raw.
I'm Devin, a.k.a. Special Delivery Dev.
We're the Super Media Bros podcast. And each week, we give a comedically informative take on movies,
music,
television,
pro wrestling,
and much more. Check us out at supermediabrospodcast.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that you can listen to podcasts. Shades on.
We're off.
We are back. It's Russ and Kyle, and we are discussing a topic that, for whatever reason, just seems to come up every couple of years. And we'll get into that a little bit more as we go through this. But I feel like this is something that really now there seems to be a really loud crowd yelling about this, or at least that's what I see on social media. People really seeming to claim that rock is dead. So that is what we're going to get into for our main topic of discussion. Now, a couple of things I wanted to talk about before we even get into the main topic of discussion is like, what are your favorite rock bands and what is rock music to you? So we'll start there. Like Kyle, like I feel like there's easy answers to give, like, Zeppelin and whoever else, but what are some of who you consider to be your favorite rock bands of all time?
See, I mean, it's hard because so back in the day, there was like, I don't know, 3 genres of, that kind of music. Now there's like 50.
Right.
So it's like, the rock music that I listen to most is like Metallica or Slipknot or all that kind of stuff. But that would be considered like new metal or metal
Heavy
or whatever
metal,
the hell you want to call it now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, yeah, I listen to Led Zeppelin. What else? AC/DC. Like there's a lot of ones that like would better fall into that category as like rock music. Like, AC/DC, right. I think is a rock band.
Yeah, for sure.
But I very much, it's so skewed now, which is why I think people constantly try to bring up the fact that rock is dead. It's just that rock has 40 different genres that it's spread between now. Mm-hmm. So it's not, it's not dead.
And you end up with people, I feel now, we have a problem where a lot of people don't really know, I don't know, I get like the history or the heritage of rock and roll, and they don't realize how much that it has grown or evolved, from what it was initially. And like, for example, of course, if, anybody who's listened to the show any period of time, if you were to ask me who my favorite rock band of all time is, it's Pink Floyd. And there's not much Pink Floyd material that you could define as rock and roll. Like across that band alone, they skip a ton of genres. Like they don't really have any, maybe like Young Lust off The Wall or the Nile Song off of More or something like that. They have some songs that I would consider rockin', but they're considered one of the greatest quote rock bands of all time. And they don't really have much rock music,
I think a lot of this shit started when streaming started, because if you go look on Spotify, there's literally, even we were talking about with Amigo the Devil, like Murder Folk. Like, what the fuck is that?
Right.
It's literally like, so what? Johnny Cash was Murder Folk too, then. But
yeah,
that didn't exist back when Johnny Cash was alive. So the streaming services have so many different genres that they put on different things. Like, I mean, for example, Pink Floyd, it's probably like stoner rock or like some sort of like weird like subgenre that they continue to make for all these different bands.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like you said, how simple things used to be. Like when Johnny Cash was big, there wasn't, I don't even think it was known as country music at the time. It was just called country and western. It was just, you did rock music, you did gospel music, or you did country and western. And that was, like jazz and whatnot. But like really even at the time, at the birth of rock and roll, it was considered that rock and roll covered the whole R&B genre too. And that's like,
yeah.
Dude, you're an authority on this. How many different genres of rap are there now?
Oh, so every time a little subset of rappers comes out from a certain area, they essentially have created their own sort of genre, and then that gets picked up by the media and the streaming services and so on and so forth. And then now we have a new genre of music.
Right. Yeah. And to be clear, and I'm going to speak for myself here, and Kyle, you agree or disagree. I'm not being all old man, get off my lawn about this. I'm fine with whatever you want to call, whatever. But what I feel like is that when the genres get expanded, or which, by the way, excellent point on the reason that's happening is most likely because of whatever the record labels decide to call things on streaming. But I don't care what it's called. And it doesn't matter to me what it's called, but I feel like maybe the labeling alone is confusing people. But are you the same way? Like, you don't really care what anything is called, right?
Yeah. I literally just, I don't even know what to explain. I like what I like, and I don't give a shit what it's called. Or like, I think Murder Folk sounds awesome. So like I would call Murder Folk because it sounds cool.
Right.
I don't care it doesn't matter to me. Like, it doesn't. I don't. Now, I would have a problem if someone tried to correct me. If I was like, "Yeah, have you heard that new country artist Amigo the Devil?" And they were like, "No, he sings Murder Folk."
Right.
And I'd be like, "Oh, okay, well, how about you fuck off?"
Yeah, you would give them an invitation to do so.
Yes.
So what is rock music to you then? Like, what do you call rock music? And I know, like, I know that sounds like I'm just asking you again what your favorite artists are, but I'm not. Like, what when you hear something, what makes you go, oh, that's a rock song?
All the lines have been crossed, so it's like you could consider Bob Seger some of Bob Seger's rock music. You could consider some of Five Finger Death Punch rock music, or AC/DC or Guns N' Roses, or there's all these bands that just they blur the lines of what everything is now. So it's like, to me all that shit is rock music. I don't go around telling everyone I listen to heavy metal. I just say I listen to Slipknot or Metallica or whoever else. Yeah.
So I feel, and tell me if I'm wrong on this, I feel like people define rock by what was popular in their teenage years. So that, like, I feel like the generation that grew up with Elvis and whatnot, like when Zeppelin and whatnot came along, they're like, oh, this is all garbage, right? Because like to them, rock music was, Elvis, Chuck Berry, you know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
And then again, when the people that grew up on Zeppelin and Sabbath and everything, when Motley Crue and Dokken and everybody came along in the 80s, that generation was like, oh, that's not rock music. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like whatever you grew up on, and me, I'm right in the middle. Like, I grew up, I started really getting into music when like Motley Crue and Dokken and all those guys came up. And then I was carried through the 90s with, like, again, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and so on. So to me, that was always like the clear definition of rock music. But even then, we talked about Nine Inch Nails recently. And Nine Inch Nails, I think, in some respects, you could look at as rock music. And then there's other people that'll always just call it industrial. Some people even call Nine Inch Nails techno. But do you agree with that like whatever generation you grow up in is what you probably perceive rock to be?
Yeah, and so like, here in Michigan and the Detroit area, we grew up listening to the Riff, right? So that that was the rock station.
Mm-hmm.
So growing up, yeah, I would consider anything that they played on the Riff to be rock music. So it's it's White Zombie, it's Metallica, it's all those bands. Marilyn
and
Manson,
again, they slid in Nine Inch Nails now and again too.
Oh yeah, and now that we're talking about this, I've come to realize that I really, really despise labels for things. Like I'm so glad I no longer have to go buy CDs at Best Buy, and like Nine Inch Nails is under some sort of weird subcategory in the shelves that I'm spending 20 minutes looking for something where it should be, and it's over in some complete other area. I no longer have to deal with that, and that makes me happy.
Right. Yeah, that's for sure. At least that's one advantage of streaming too, is you just look up the artist or song you're looking for, instead of having to go and locate it wherever someone put it.
And what's weird is this transcends. I'm gonna not try to do a huge sidebar here, but
no, go ahead.
Transcends into so many other things. Like you were saying about like rap music, the same shit happens, but like it also happens in like the fashion world. People pretend that like because you say because you wear Yeezys or some sort of like Kanye West clothing, that then you couldn't wear a leather jacket and like some sort of like leather boots and dress like you were like a rocker or some sort of like, there's all these like categories of like what fashion is. It's the same kind of thing.
Yep.
And then you have those artists like Kanye West or whoever else. So you have all these artists that blur the lines not only in the music world, but also in the fashion world. And a lot of them are in the music world that are in the fashion world. So it's like, it's very strange to see, like, I see the same shit happening. Like if I were to watch like the, Louis Vuitton fashion show from Paris Fashion Week or whatever, it's very much the same thing that happens with music, and it's happening constantly.
So do you agree with what I'm saying about, because if you agree with it, I have another point that I want to move on to, but it will depend on your thoughts on this. Do you agree that like the generation you came up in, then that's where probably you get your genre ideas from, or not even genre definitions, but what you think of as rap or what you think of as rock probably has to do with the generation you come up with? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. And that's why that's why it gets so confusing now, because each generation is like, oh, rock is dying, like yada, yada, yada. But it's not dying. It's just growing and changing.
See, I couldn't agree with that more. But what I was going to say about that is that the rock went through, if you look at the history of rock between whatever, let's say 1955 to 1970, right? So 15-year period. Rock grew by leaps and bounds, and everybody accepted all of that as rock music, right? If you look at rap, now before anybody jumps down my throat, I'm well aware that rap goes way back before 1990. But I think you can argue that 1990 is when rap really went mainstream, right? Like with the Chronic and PE and everybody, like really was like a force to be reckoned with, right? So in my opinion, rap is a relatively young genre, and it is growing and changing and evolving at the same rate that rock did when rock came about. And that's why I think nobody says that about, like, nobody bats an eye about all the evolution that goes on in rap, because it's still such a young genre. And I feel like the same thing happened with the first 30 years of rock too.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, that totally makes sense to me. Yeah, rap is just a very, very young genre compared to rock.
Mhm.
And it is a lot of what rap is still doing has already been done in rock.
Right.
There's so many transitions over and over and over again, and changing constantly. I don't know.
Well,
agree.
here's my thing. So all of this leads to the next discussion point that I wanted to make, which, by the way, I didn't know if you were going to agree or disagree with any of the things that I've said so far. So I'm glad that we're both, on the same page about this, because here's my thing. So rock seems to have, by rock fan definitions, rock seems to have been pigeonholed into basically if it came out between 55 and say 95, that's rock music, right? So do you think the fact that a lot of that generation that made that music has either passed away or is on the brink of, do you think that has a lot to do with it, or not at all? Like, and on this, I have no opinion on this. I'm just wondering if, yeah, we still have Ozzy. Yeah, we still have Keith. But like, we've lost some huge, Eddie Van Halen isn't with us anymore. Do you think that if their presence isn't around, that contributes to people being like, oh, the sky is falling, rock is over, because the people who made it when it was that big are gone? Do you think that plays into people's perception at all?
I totally agree. And if you look at now, the rockers that we still have, that like from my generation, whatever you want to say, Slipknot, Marilyn Manson, they start changing again as new people take their place and they kind of fall back. And that's just the natural segue of how the industry works, man. You can't just, unless you're Keith Richards or Ozzy Osbourne, you can't live forever.
Right.
So it's just how it goes. And when younger genre, then rock is, a lot of an old rapper now is like 50 years old. That's like an old rapper.
Yep.
An old rocker is 80 years old. So it's totally different. And a lot of these like old timer rappers are still around, and we still have them. They're still relevant. They still involve themselves in things. It just happens. People get old, people die, unfortunately, and the genre pushes forward, and it changes. It changes every time someone passes away and passes the torch to somebody else.
And that's how I feel. I really feel like every time that we lose. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not saying this, and I don't think Kyle is. Correct me if I'm wrong if you're saying this, but I don't think that because Eddie Van Halen passed away, now rock can move forward, or it is moving forward because he passed away or whatever. I just feel like that's the mindset of like someone who grew up on Van Halen feels like, okay, well, Eddie's gone and I don't know what the kids are up to these days.
Yeah. And it leaves them with no other option besides to maybe find out what the kids are up to these days. And then they might find something else that they like.
Absolutely.
That is like Eddie Van Halen.
Yep.
Or, something like that.
And you know what? I didn't even put that on my discussion points, but it's funny. Right before you said that, I typed it into my discussion points. We're going to come to that in a minute about how, well, we'll get to it in a minute about how to find out that rock isn't dead. But one thing I want to ask you, because you're on social media at least as much as I am, do you think that the conversation, the perception that rock is dying, do you think it's getting louder because of social media? Because now me and anybody else can post, a Floyd track and be like, oh, they don't make them like this anymore. Like, do you think that conversation is getting louder because of that? Or do you think it's just a natural evolution situation?
I think that every single thing that we deal with on a daily basis is amplified by social media, and it drives me fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And I try to stay out of it But I find myself doing the same thing with like sports and shit. I'll post I'll post Barry Sanders and him just murdering everyone running up the field, just destroying everybody on the field. And it'll be like, now it's just, I'm stuck in that time where that was happening, and it's just different now. And the same thing happens with music, and everyone gets on social media and posts their throwbacks of this and that, and how come we don't have any real rockers anymore? How come rap sucks now? Or, all that kind of shit. It happens all the time, all day long.
Yeah.
And it's 1000% amplified by social media.
Yeah. And you and I have talked about this at great length on our own show. We've talked about it in person. Like, that's one of the reasons why we do the show that we do, is because we like to say, like, hey, you should check this out or whatever else. Like, you never catch me and you on here being like for example, here's an example. Me, you, and Michelle, all three dove headfirst into the latest Billie Eilish record. And at no point were any of us like, well, she can't sing as good as Whitney because they don't make them like they used to anymore. You know what I mean? Like, all three of us were like, this is a great record. We took it at face value and we move forward with it. Whereas I feel like a lot of people are just like, that's not a singer. Whitney was a singer. You know what I'm saying? And that's how I feel like it goes into the social media discussion too, because of that.
Yeah. And it's not one or the other. You can like all of these things. Whitney used to perhaps be one of the best singers ever. And so was Mariah Carey at one point, but there are other great singers, and it doesn't matter. And it doesn't take away from them. It's just there's so many people that can fill all of the space with greatness that it doesn't have to be one or the other or this or that or any of that kind of stuff.
Exactly. And, you brought up a point a minute ago that I said we'd circle back to, and you just segued into your own point very, very well. Speaking of there being a lot of space out there, there's only so much space in the mainstream, right? You and I joked during the first half of the episode about how you had seen the Roger Waters ad, ad nauseum on YouTube. But other than that, the Roger Waters ad, because he's got a tour to promote right now, when do you see ads like rock is not in the forefront that it was for 40 some years, right? At least that's how I feel. I feel like rock isn't anywhere near in the forefront like it was for ages. And to me, that doesn't just mean, oh, I don't see rock everywhere. It's not pushed right in my face. Ergo, it's dead. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm going to circle this back to the point that you made a few minutes ago, but would you agree with that just because rock isn't being pushed in our face every 2 minutes doesn't mean that it's dead and gone?
Yeah. It's crazy that you bring that up because I didn't even think about it like that. But so back in like the 90s, early 2000s, like everyone, all of the media focused on rock. So like everyone cared about what Axl Rose was doing or what Slash was doing or who was banging who or all that kind of stuff. And now it just gets switched around to different genres of music. Like if, in my personal opinion, right now, everyone's kind of focused on like rap and like Kanye West and like the Kardashians and like what rapper they're involved with and like all that kind of stuff. While now rock kind of sits on the back burner of like being thrust into the media like that.
Yep.
And though YouTube ads annoy the shit out of me, and I don't know why I don't pay for ad free, but I guess I'm too cheap. I did think it was awesome to see these ads pop up, and half the people that are seeing these ads are like, who the hell is Roger Waters?
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's crazy that like they're advertising this. That's awesome.
Yeah. And I'll tell you another thing too about the whole rock not being pushed in your face anymore. Rock music is definitely out there, and you know where it is? It's in the same clubs that it was before. It's just not every band is a arena band anymore. Like you and I have talked about that before. Like, I don't live in Detroit anymore, but Detroit as a city, you could throw a rock on a Tuesday night and hit 10 bars downtown with some badass bands playing. And it's just a matter of you now have to do that footwork for yourself. Like you have to go out and find rock. It's not just going to be served to you on a silver platter. So to me, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Kyle, I feel like this notion that rock is dead. Oh, we've said it before, but now it's real. Rock, I never see rock anywhere. I feel like that's user error, man. Like you should go out to some rock places and catch some rock bands that are not being served to you on a silver platter. Am I wrong on that?
No, I totally agree. And like, so I feel like an old man harping on social media and stuff, but like a lot of how songs are able to reach the masses now are part of the problem. Like, so the industry, the music industry as a whole is so diluted that it's so hard to find it's like the paradox of choice. There's too much available to be able to focus on what you're looking for. So you really, really have to go out, like you were saying, and put in the legwork and find these clubs that these bands are playing in that have existed forever and are still playing and still doing their thing. And to that same point, like also every genre has its like heyday, right? Like Elvis had his heyday, and rock had its heyday, and grunge had its heyday, and hip hop rap. I don't even think they've reached. Some people can say that like when Biggie and Tupac and Puffy had like all the bad boy artists and all that kind of stuff. There's also a great documentary on Netflix right now about Bad Boy Records. You 100% should watch it, and everybody else should too. But beyond that, like a lot of people in this industry, in the rap industry, consider that to be the heyday of rap. And rap is so much younger than every other genre. So it's like there's so much out there that people, I think, get overwhelmed and are like, man, I don't even know what the fuck I'm looking for anymore. Like, I give up.
Dude, I hear that. And, the other thing, too, is like I'm probably considered very old for a rock fan. Like getting into my late 40s now, I'm probably considered very old. But you know this, Kyle. You've seen it firsthand. I'm not afraid to go and check out smaller bands and go and look for it. And to me, this all boils down to pick your poison. Pardon the pun, but Sabbath, Zeppelin, Sabbath, Zeppelin, Elvis, again, Poison, Dokken, whomever, Pearl Jam, Nirvana. At one time, those acts were all lauded everywhere you looked. Everywhere you looked or listened, they were on the cover of the magazines. They were on every single award show. They were on the MTV live shows in the afternoon. Their videos were in constant play. If you go back to the 50s or 60s, their pictures were all over everything. They were all over the magazines. And people just went right to that and said, oh, this is rock music. This is mine. Because, and again, I hate to use the phrase again, but it was being served on a silver platter. And now I agree with what you're saying that there's so much choice, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I just think that you need to go look for yourself and find these things. Like, who knows? You might love some band that never would have gotten big if you just go take a chance. Even with streaming, man, you can listen to 30 seconds of 10 tracks by 10 different bands now. And if you don't like that stuff, then you don't like that and move on.
It truly is a double-edged sword. And I will say that I would still be stuck in a box if it wasn't for the internet. Like the internet has put me onto so much shit that I would have never found with algorithms and, whatever the fuck, just searching for stuff, whatever. And as much as I dislike the paradox of choice, like, you go into the cereal aisle, I'm looking for fucking Cocoa Krispies, and there's 40 different brands that have 40 different Cocoa Krispies. I just want Cocoa Krispies, man. Just give me Cocoa Krispies. That's it.
The hashtag give Kyle his Cocoa Krispies.
Yeah, I do love some Cocoa Krispies. But, like, I do agree, is that the social media and both the internet have made it so much music accessible, which is great if you can sort through all of the garbage that exists or all the stuff that you are not going to like. If you have the motivation to put in the legwork to find stuff that you truly like, then it's out there, and it will never not be out there. It's constantly evolving and growing.
I don't want to open this can of worms, so I'm going to try and calm myself before I ask this question to you, because in some ways what I'm about to ask you is a bigger discussion for a different episode. But you've labored the point, and you're correct. I don't mean that in a bad way, about there being so much available. You're totally right. There's so much available out there. Do you think that we would benefit more if the record industry did have more control like they used to, and not everybody who's made an album in their basement is able to put it out for consumption? Like, do you think that we would be better off as listeners if there were more people, for lack of a better term, in charge of like making sure that the cream rises? Or how, let me say this, Kyle, gun to your head, which would you rather have? Would you rather have more limited selection that you knew was good music that was being presented to you? Or would you rather it be what we have, which is the free for all, and hopefully the algorithm directs you the right way?
Oh, fuck, man. That's a difficult one. I never thought that I would agree with anything that a record label did.
I know, me either.
But like back in the day, there's an A&R, and there's like these talent scouts that go out and look for. They're like these experts, right? They know themselves what sounds good, what's going to sell, everyone who's famous now. Somebody beforehand was like that dude or that woman or whoever that person's going to be a fucking superstar.
Yep.
And they were right. Now, fucking Jimmy in his basement can record a full album of trash and put it out, and then it gets picked up by TikTok, and then everyone is singing Jimmy's fucking basement songs that are garbage, and then someone who has talent is now been pushed to the wayside. It really is a double-edged sword, and I do love choices. You know, where this is America. We're full of we can do so many choices we have here. I don't mind that, but also I kind of like I like things to be curated a certain way. And back in the day, they were very much curated.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, I totally agree with what you're saying about an A&R guy and how that's the people that, you always hear so many stories about how people were discovered and whatever. So for me, because I'm always on the hunt, like I'll listen to just about anything somebody asks me to listen to. I don't have a problem seeking out too much stuff, but I feel like the customer, as in the rock and roll listener, got accustomed to there being, for lack of a better term, like a clerk, like a guy who, like you said, you walk in the aisle, you're like, I just want Cocoa Krispies. And there was a guy that went and got that for you. Pardon the crazy out there analogy here, but to me, that used to be the A&R guy. Like if people started buying more rock records, the A&R guy was like, oh, well, let's go get us some more of that rock. Oh, here you go, sir. Here's some more rock. And I feel like those parts of the record industry did benefit from it, and fans who don't want to go and do the legwork and would rather have a rock band or a rock song or an album served to them and say, hey, here's the mainstream thing. If you like it, great. I feel like there is definitely a huge section of music fans that would benefit from that.
Yeah, and much like a lot of things ended up like this, but the music industry had a chance to put the reins on the internet when it could, and it chose not to because it thought that the internet and streaming was never, ever, ever going to replace people buying records and so on and so forth, and they were completely fucking wrong.
Yep.
So now it is literally the wild, wild west, and so now it's just there's just shit everywhere. There's great stuff everywhere. There's amazing stuff everywhere, and no one knows where to fucking find it because it's just all over the place.
Right. So I feel like, if I'm not mistaken, I mean, at least my takeaway from this discussion is you and I feel that rock is not dead. It's just in a continual state of evolving. And furthermore, because there's so much stuff out there, if rock is your thing, it's on you to sift through what's out there to find the rock that you want to listen to. That's at least, I feel like that's the resolve of what we've been talking about. Is that, would you agree with all that?
Yeah, and stepping back to our friend in Iran there, like it's crazy when he says like, we don't really have access to this or access to that. So when he does find things, he like latches onto them. Like that's what makes me feel like if there wasn't so much, you would be able to hone in on what you really, really loved and be like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah, I do. I can feel like I totally understand what you're saying. And I feel like that's what rock was for the first, 40 years. Or so is, like even like, let's narrow it down to the 70s. Again, I've named these bands a few times, but Sabbath, Zeppelin, and Floyd, for all intents and purposes, those are very different types of music, man. Sabbath is all doom and gloom. Floyd is part progressive rock and has just about every genre thrown into it. And then Zeppelin is hard rocking and it's folk at the same time. So even if the only big three bands in the 70s were those three bands, you still had it like narrowed down to, hey, if you like this, here's this for you. And if you like this, here's this for you. But now everything is so spread out that I feel like rock gets lost in the mix of all of that. But tell me if I'm wrong on this. I feel like my main message for this episode, and just tell me if you agree with it or if you feel there's more nuance to it. For me, my main message in this episode is rock is not dead. You just have to search more to find rock that you like these days.
I agree 100%. Rock is not dead. It's just constantly evolving like everything else.
Yeah.
And, if you're not going to put in the effort to go and seek things that you want to hear now, then you're not going to find them.
Yep, that's exactly how I feel about it. And actually, I didn't plan to do this, but I'm going to give a cheap plug to another podcast that's out there. And I've gone on their show a few times. They're really, really great guys. There's a podcast out of St. Louis called The Itch Rocks. And these guys are always on the hunt for new rock. always, and they put the newest rock bands up on blast all the time. These guys are always out at rock shows. So I would tell people, if you are a person listening to this and you're hearing Kyle and I, and you're saying that I don't know where I would even begin looking for new rock, I would tell you to check out the It's Rocks and and probably other shows like that focus on new rock. We, for good, bad, or indifferent, me, Kyle, and Michelle try very hard to focus on as much music as we can all the time. We're not a dedicated rock show, but there are resources out there for people to find whatever they want. I have one last question for you, Kyle, and this will be fairly simple. It's just a quick philosophical question. Do you think putting music in genres is beneficial to anybody ever, or would you rather it just be, like you said, hey, I listen to Metallica or I listen to Slipknot, or do you think that putting things in genres can be beneficial at all?
I do think it's beneficial for the right person. I mean, there's people whose brains like have to have shit divided up like that.
Yeah.
And I'm not one of those people. People ask me what I listen to, and my response is, what don't I listen to? So it's like, I listen to everything. I mean, from Enya to Slipknot, everything in between, all that.
Yep.
So yeah, it probably does benefit some people out there. It does not benefit me personally. It drives me nuts.
I couldn't agree more. So I think Kyle and I have done a good job of carrying this Michelle-less episode, this discussion of rock music, which, by the way, Kyle, you're going to have to explain to Michelle what rock music is when you have a chance, because I don't think she even knows what rock music is.
She's going to say Mumford & Sons or something.
Right. Having said that, when we return next week, hopefully we'll have all three of us back, and hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties. I assure you, if you're enjoying this episode, it is through very hard work that Kyle and I put into making this episode happen for you, because the internet was very against us this evening trying to get this done. Next week on the program, speaking of listening to everything of all types of genres, we are going to circle back to our cover battle, and the totally epic cover battle for next week is going to be the Battle of the Lady Marmalades, the original version by LaBelle against the version that was featured in Moulin Rouge a little while back that I feel like was as big or bigger of a hit. And I think this is going to be more of a competition than some of the cover battles we've had so far, because there's a lot of similarities between the versions, and there's a lot more names on the cover than there is the original, and so we'll have to take all that into consideration. But like we always say about this time, without music, life would be a mistake. Bye.
The Infectious Groove podcast is hosted by Russ Robinson, Kyle Wimple, and Michelle Koselecki. Produced and edited by Russ Robinson. Intro and outro music composed by Chris Kimmel. Recorded with the Rode Podcaster Pro and Rode Pod mics.